Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for March 22nd of 2024, and currently we have a slight risk just above the categorical outlook legend here for the very southern tip of Florida, including the Florida Keys. That's the main region we're watching for severe thunderstorms, is mainly across the Florida Keys. Threats for today do include a 5% tornado risk for that slight risk area, a 15% damaging wind risk for that slight risk area, with that 5% tornado risk and that 50% damaging wind risk are both able to get up to a slight risk by themselves. So we will be watching for the primary risks of damaging wind gusts, the potential for a few tornadoes and water spouts, as well as a 5% hail risk. So we could see the potential of some small to medium hail. And then for our day 2 outlook for tomorrow, we do have two marginal risks, one for the coast of North Carolina there, as well as southern Florida again. Risks for tomorrow do include a 2% tornado risk for both marginal threat areas, a 5% damaging wind risk for both marginal threat areas, and not really all that much of a hail risk. And then for day 3 outlook, this is where things are really going to ramp up. And this is where things are going to get concerning, because we are currently watching for the potential of significant severe thunderstorms upcoming, especially on Saturday into Sunday, with a slight risk that extends across central Kansas and central Oklahoma. This is going to be associated with a dry line. However, there is a lot of concern in place with this system, and a lot of uncertainty as of right now with how much moisture we are expected to have, as well as a small moisture pocket in the warm sector. So we will have to watch for that, see how that's going to affect our risk for severe thunderstorms on Saturday. And then for Sunday, in our day 4 to day 8 outlooks, we do have a 15% for the Mississippi River Valley, where we could be watching for the potential of significant severe thunderstorms. For day 5 outlook, to our day 8 outlook, there's currently nothing issued as of right now. Taking a look at our WPC outlook, starting off with the excessive rainfall forecast. For today, we do have a slight risk for flash flooding for the southern tip of Florida there, not including the Florida Keys. However, we could definitely see some isolated flooding across the Florida Keys. It's just too small to really harbor all that much of a risk for flooding, and the islands are too flat and way too close to sea level to really harbor all that much of a risk for flash flooding. And then we also do have a marginal threat that does extend across the Atlantic seaboard from the Florida Panhandle into North Carolina and Southern Virginia there, as well as another marginal threat for the northwestern coastline of California and southwestern Oregon there along the coast, where we are watching for the potential of some isolated flash flooding, but we are mainly watching for the potential of scattered flash flooding across southern Florida. For tomorrow, we are looking at a slight risk that does extend across Massachusetts into Maryland and northern Virginia, where we could see some scattered flash flooding, as well as some isolated flash flooding for northern California and southwestern Oregon there, just like today. And then for our day 3 outlook, which is the 25th, we are watching for the potential of some isolated flash flooding for far southwestern California there. And then for winter weather outlooks, we are still watching this significant winter storm, where we are seeing it continue out into the New England corridor here. This should lead to an insane amount of snowfall across that region. And then we could also see some heavy snowfall for some elevated regions across California. And then for tomorrow, on the 25th, we are watching for the potential of some very heavy snowfall for the New England corridor as that system moves out into Canada and the Atlantic Ocean, as well as another snowstorm that is going to impact the northern half of the United States and Midwest, which is going to drop even more snowfall on top of the snowstorm that's already impacted. So we definitely have quite a lot of snow ahead of us. And then for day 3 outlook for the 26th, that is going to continue into the Midwest, potentially even extend down into Nebraska there. Taking a look at our weather model, starting off with our 500 millibars like we usually do, as well as our surface observations and how that's going to work in conjunction with our upper air system. As of right now, we do have a stationary front and a warm front associated with two surface lows across the Gulf of Mexico. This is going to fire off a cluster of thunderstorms that is going to move eastward over the next couple of hours into the region of concern. And the main forcing behind this is going to be this fairly broad low pressure system system, which is mainly across the Mississippi River Valley and is advecting into the southern Dixie states. So overall, I'm not really too sure how well that low pressure system is really going to affect the risk for severe thunderstorms across southern Florida there, but it does look like the majority of work may be being introduced by the subtropical jet, as well as that low pressure system is potentially working in conjunction with that subtropical jet at least a little bit to trigger off the severe thunderstorms. At our 500 millibars, we are seeing mid-level flow upwards of 60 to 50 to potentially 70 miles per hour, which is definitely quite strong for 500 millibars. So that is definitely going to allow for quite a lot of forcing to support some severe thunderstorms. Taking a look at our 700 millibars and our 850 millibars in the contour lines here. Our 700 millibars is our shaded, the full color stuff. We're going to be taking a look at our low-level jet in our directional shear to see how that's going to support the risk for tornadoes across this region. For the region of concern, you can see that those cells are in conjunction with that low-level jet there, potentially getting upwards of 50 to 40 miles per hour, which is definitely fairly strong. We should definitely see quite a lot of shear come out of that, and should definitely see a fairly decent tornado risk with that as well. However, it does come down to instability with this low-level jet, and a lot of our thunderstorms across this region, you can see in our contours here, our updraft helicity contours here, a lot of our storms are exhibiting some strong rotation. However, I doubt that is really going to continue into Florida. I doubt our updraft helicity is going to look like this in reality. However, it does look very concerning, but is very indicative of the potential of a couple of tornadoes across the Florida Key region and a couple of water spouts. Taking a look at our 200 millibars and our upper level jet to see how that's going to affect the risk for severe thunderstorms with affluence, as well as our speed shear and the potential for hail across this region. Across southern Florida here, let's start off with our defluence in our isobars. If you follow our isobars here, not our isobars, but our wind vectors, you can see that there is quite a lot of spread in the upper level jet here. So we should definitely see quite a lot of defluence across this region. And that should definitely help with our storms quite a bit. We should definitely see quite a lot of large-scale ascent come out of that, and that should wildly help our risk for severe thunderstorms across this region. And with our 200 millibars potentially getting upwards of 90 to 80 knots compared to our 700 or our 500 millibars, which was around 60 to 70 knots, we should definitely see quite a bit of speed shear come out of this. Not necessarily directional shear, but we should definitely see quite a lot of bulk shear, quite a lot of speed shear. We should definitely see pretty marginal severe thunderstorm risk. We shouldn't get a whole lot of speed shear come out of this, because there's maybe a 10-20 knot increase in speed from our 500 millibars and our 200 millibars. So that's not really going to support a wild increase the higher up you go. So we should see a fairly marginal risk for hail, but still a risk for hail nonetheless with this. Now that we've gone over our upper level setup, I can now culminate them all together to give us our various shear profiles, such as our directional shear with storm relative felicity and our bulk shear. So we're going to start with storm relative felicity and our tornado risk for southern Florida, for the Florida Keys. We are definitely expected to see quite a lot of directional shear come out of this low level jet, with the storm relative felicity potentially getting upwards of 400 to 500 meters squared second squared of storm relative felicity, and that is expected to continue into the Florida Keys. We actually may see it decrease to potentially around 300 meters squared to second squared, around the mid 300s. Still very supportive of the potential of at least a couple of tornadoes across this region. So we should definitely be watching for the potential of any islands potentially being impacted by a tornadic water spout. It's definitely a big concern with the amount of directional shear, but we will have to look at our instability. Taking a look at our bulk shear or our speed shear to see how that's going to affect our hail risk. We are definitely expected to see bulk shear values that may be able to get upwards of 80 knots to potentially 70 knots and maybe even 90 knots. So we are definitely expected to see quite a lot of bulk shear across this region, quite a lot of speed shear. That should definitely support at least the potential for small hail. Taking a look at our composite reflectivity, see if we can go over the when and where. We should be able to see our severe thunderstorms, mainly going over the timing before we get into our environment and how that's going to affect our instability in our composite parameters. We are expected to see storms continue across the Florida Keys for quite some time. This does bring up the concern of how much surface instability we are expected to see across this region, because if we already have storms ongoing, they are probably leading to more rain-cooled air and less instability for the storms that we are expected to be watching for to use up. So that may be leading to potentially a lower risk for severe thunderstorms overall. However, we are expected to see quite a lot of heavy rainfall start first across the western coast of Florida around 6 to 7 p.m. That's going to move across the majority of southern Florida with potentially some small to severe hail mixed in with that around 9 p.m. and then we are expected to see the start of our severe thunderstorms in the slight risk region impact the Key West area starting around 9 p.m. and that's going to continue across the Keys until around 11 a.m. That's when this Boeing segment is expected to pass over, but we should begin to continue to see severe thunderstorms and the potential for at least large hail. I doubt we're going to see all that much surface instability because it is likely going to be all pushed out by this Boeing segment, but we could still see some elevated storms fire off back behind that Boeing segment along the stationary front, which still may be able to lead to the potential of some damaging wind gusts and the potential for some large hail. Taking a look at our dew points across this region, we are expected to see some fairly decent dew points because it is Florida and it is very humid across Florida, especially the Keys because they are a bunch of islands. We are expected to see dew points are probably going to be ranging around the low 70s. So depending on our temperatures, we should probably definitely see quite a lot of instability come out of this. Taking a look at our temperatures and how that's going to work in conjunction with our dew points to support our instability. We are definitely expected to see some fairly warm temperatures across this region, with temperatures that may be able to linger around the mid 70s and upper 70s, which is definitely going to be fairly supportive of the potential of quite a lot of instability. And then after those storms impact, you can see that pretty powerful Boeing line segment is going to lead to significantly more rain-cooled air, which is going to make our temperatures drop to potentially the mid and low 70s. And then across the Florida peninsula, we should probably see temperatures drop to around the mid 60s, but that is likely going to be of an effect of the sun setting. And then as the sun rises, we are potentially going to see temperatures across central Florida rise to around the mid to upper 70s. Taking a look at our lapse rates and how that's going to affect the potential of severe thunderstorms as well as our hail potential. Across southern Florida, across the Keys, we are probably going to see some fairly limited lapse rates that are probably just barely going to get up to 6. They're probably going to stay around 5. They're probably going to stay pretty weak. So overall, that may lead to a little bit more of a limited hail risk, but depending on our instability and our speed here, we should definitely see at least the potential for some small hail still. However, we shouldn't really see too much of an aid from our lapse rates, and it may lead to some more limited instability. Taking a look at our 700 millibar temperatures as well as our convective inhibition in the contours here that aren't shaded, we're going to be taking a look at how that's going to affect our risk for severe thunderstorms across this region. I highly doubt that we're going to see too much of a problem with convective inhibition, especially for the first couple of hours, because the cap has already broken. There are storms currently ongoing across this region in the form of those unsevere rain showers that are leading to more damaging wind gusts and maybe some small hail, very marginal hail. However, by the time storms are expected to arrive, that cap again is going to be already broken, and we should see a lot of convective inhibition being introduced behind that Boeing line segment, which is likely going to limit any storm development back behind it, as there's going to be a lot of convective inhibition. However, there still may be some lingering rain showers and maybe some marginal hail and maybe some damaging wind gusts back behind it, but I don't really see too much of a severe risk after this Boeing line segment moves through because of all the convective inhibition that's going to be introduced behind it. Taking a look at our instability, starting off with our most unstable cape, and then we'll move to surface, and then 0 to 3 kilometer. I do have something to note about the risk for severe thunderstorms. I did have to take a double take at the SPC Outlook and see what they had to say about it. However, with a lot of these energy helicity index values being insanely concerning, especially for the keys and the amount of instability that we are expected to see across this region, we are expected to see cape values that may be able to get upwards of the 2000s to low 2000s, mainly linger around the mid to low and upper 1000s, which is definitely going to harbor the potential of a couple tornadoes across this region, and we should definitely see the potential of some spin up in the atmosphere, as well as the potential for hail and the potential for some damaging wind gusts. However, a big hitter for this is the uncertainty that is expected to exist across this region. The convective allowing models, including the HER models, or the HRRR models, as some people call them, are quite wild here. And that it goes if our convective, or if our most unstable cape can actually return, if our instability can actually return after a lot of the storms that are currently ongoing across this region before the actually impact. So there is a little bit of uncertainty with that, but regardless, we still could see the potential of some spin up and the potential for some severe hail and the potential for some damaging wind gusts. Taking a look at our surface instability and how that's going to affect the potential for surface-based storms, it does look like the majority of our most unstable cape is expected to translate down to our surface instability, so we shouldn't really have too much of a problem with surface-based storms. However, that is a concern with the rain showers that were expected across this region and are currently ongoing right now before our storms. So again, if destabilization can occur, we could definitely see the potential for some surface-based storms, and that will support the potential of all hazards, including the tornadoes, the potential for some small to medium hail, potentially large hail, as well as the damaging wind gusts. Taking a look at our 0 to 3 kilometer instability and how that's going to help our risk for severe thunderstorms, we are definitely expected to see quite a lot of 0 to 3 kilometer instability across this region, potentially getting upwards of 100, potentially approaching 200 joules per kilogram of 0 to 3 kilometer instability, which is going to vastly help our potential for tornadoes across this region, as it will enhance the low level spin at the surface, and it will turn it vertical and lead to some vertical rotation, and that will wildly help our potential for tornadoes across this region. So everything I've seen so far is very supportive of the potential of tornadoes if destabilization can actually occur behind our rain showers. Combining it all together to look at our composite model, starting off with our tornado risk and our energy helicity index models, we are expected to see some fairly decent energy helicity index values across this region as the result of the convective allowing models leading to a lot of instability and a lot of shear. So we are seeing some quite wild energy helicity index values across this region, with values that are getting upwards of 5, 4, 3, very supportive of the potential of tornadoes across this region. However, with the uncertainty in place, if we didn't have that uncertainty, I could see a 10% tornado risk that may be introduced if instability actually is realized from these convective allowing models. However, as of right now with the uncertainty, I do think the SPC is doing a good job at keeping it as a slight risk, and that does make sense with uncertainty currently in place. However, these energy helicity index values are definitely very concerning and very indicative of the potential of a couple of tornadoes across this region. Taking a look at our wind gust models and the risk for damaging wind gusts across this region, with the 15% damaging wind gust risk across this area, which is going to support a slight risk by itself, as well as that 5% tornado risk, we are definitely expected to see some fairly decent, fairly strong damaging wind gusts across this region. Again, that is if instability is actually realized. We could potentially see damaging wind gusts if instability is realized upwards of 60 miles per hour, which is destructive wind gusts. They don't have a hatch area due to the uncertainty. However, again, if instability is realized, things are getting quite concerning. So definitely make sure you're on the lookout. However, we are mainly watching for the potential of some scattered damaging wind gusts across the Florida Keys. I'm not going to take a look at the mesoanalysis hail parameters because the instability hasn't been fully realized yet, and we're kind of too far early in the event for our hail risk to be picked up on our mesoanalysis just yet. And if you're looking at those updraft helicity tracks in the background, be rest assured that is probably not going to happen. The convective allowing models are showing some crazy outlandish stuff, and our instability is very conditional right now, so that is likely not going to happen. but still be on the lookout for the potential of at least a couple tornadoes across the Florida Key region. But now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas I covered for today, please stay with the alert for the time being. If you notice anything might have been wrong in this forecast or would like to make a suggestion or ask a question, please leave a comment. 3 other channels I highly suggest you check out are One Nation Weather, JaxonWX, and Weather Watcher. Weather Watcher makes forecast videos for Europe if you're interested in those. One Nation Weather does forecast videos for the United States, and they are a little bit more digestible than my content because I make more in-depth content. And then JaxonWX does storm chasing content. And the links to their channels will be in the description. And hopefully I'll be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.